Stirring the masala chai with chopsticks, the K-bar chopsticks, using the vortex method, the only true way to optimize the taste of your masala chai at the molecular level. Good morning. Welcome to the Daybreak Show. I am the Sultan. We'll get started, but first, masala chai. Wow. Masala chai. I will put a link for it down below. This stuff is amazing. This is a Blue Lotus. Comes with the world's tiniest spoon. You basically just put one of these in a cup of hot water. I put two because I like it stronger. Holy cow. It'll make you sneeze too. It's got black tea, ginger. I'm serious, it'll make you sneeze. Ground cardamom, cinnamon, black pepper, nutmeg, ground cloves. Wow. Just wow. Great stuff. The minimal caffeine August is here. It was no caffeine in July, minimal caffeine in August, and then back to coffee in September. Just phenomenal stuff. I did not have caffeine withdrawal headaches. Thank the Lord. And I feel great about that. Yeah. Well, I did a complete episode of the Daybreak Show. And then when I went back to my phone, for some reason it turned off. So I did a 30-minute Daybreak Show, like I usually do, at about 4:30 in the morning. It is now about 6 o'clock in the morning. When I went to edit it, the footage wasn't there. Footage. I'm using like old film language footage. So that only means that the phone that I'm using is not as reliable as it once was. It's getting wonky, which irritates the out of me because this phone is going on 2 or 3 years old. And they almost make you get a new phone when these phones start getting wonky. It's crazy. But I do miss the Daybreak Show, man. It was nice because it was in the dark. You know, my classic Daybreak Show in the dark with just kind of like this area being lit up. Let's talk about barbershops. Talk about an introvert's worst nightmare. You know, there's a reason why I have a private men's grooming studio where I cut hair, you know, 1 day a week, part-time. I no longer cut hair full-time. That's just something that, it's a great retirement job. It's a great part-time gig. And as I went back into doing more therapeutic coaching and that kind of stuff, the haircutting took a back seat, or a more minimal role in the therapeutic coaching is a more prominent role in my life right now. And that's what I'm dumping my time, resources, money, and my effort into helping people again, but making sure that I don't burn out. And it's been very rewarding for me and all my clientele. So that's great. But think about barbershops. You know, if you're an introvert, the last thing you want to do is go sit in a row of barber chairs with a bunch of guys, or in a salon with 20 women, and get your hair cut. And have to have small talk. It's like that once a month small talk. And I've always hated that. Hated that, because there's times where, and I'm a guy that cuts hair, I hated having to do small talk, and when I cut hair, I hate initiating small talk. I can't stand it. And I'd much rather have a quiet session than a chatty session that has no depth or substance to it. What do you think about that? What are your thoughts about when you go to get your hair cut? Is it a fun experience? Is it a manly experience for you guys? For you ladies? Is it, you know, a lot of men talk about getting their hair cut as a manly experience. I don't hear women talk about going to the salon as a womanly, feminine experience. That's interesting. That's very interesting. But what is your experience when you get your hair cut? Put your answer down below. I'd like to see that. 2015 was the year that I stopped watching the news and pretty much stopped watching regular TV, except a movie where I turn the TV on, and when the movie ends, I turn it off. See, I'm still very analog. On, off, as opposed to on, off with a remote, right? I can't believe I just did that. Isn't that weird? On, off, on, off. Wow. Holy cow. I am so analog. I remember when digital watches first came out, and they were the rage. This was in the 70s, and I loved watches that had hands on them. I'm an analog guy. I rejected the digital even 50 years ago. You ain't got to be so bad. You ain't got to be so cold. This dog-eat-dog existence sure is getting old. Got to have a Jones for this and a Jones for that. This running with the Joneses, boy, just ain't where it's at. You're going to come back around to the sad, sad truth, the dirty lowdown. Boz Scaggs, 1976. Great song. It's about a friend talking to another friend about not going back to a woman who treats him like crap. The sad, sad truth. The dirty low. I'm going to give you the lowdown on this chick. That song had a chance to be on the Saturday Night Live album, and they rejected it. They probably regretted it because that became one of the best-selling albums of the 70s and of all time. Boz Scaggs was a player, though, man. Take a look at his bio. Very interesting. I just never, ever want to give up. Most battles are won in the 11th hour, and most people give up. If you give up once, it's quite hard. If you give up a second time, it's a bit easier. Give up a third time, and it starts to become a habit. Lewis Gordon Pugh. Is giving up a habit with you? How many things have you given up on? How many things have you tried that you no longer have continued? I like to say the half-completed train set in the basement. Although I don't know if young people are into train sets anymore. I doubt it. I doubt it. Generations in the past would have these train sets where you started out with an oval on a piece of, like a 4x8 piece of plywood on sawhorses. And the train would just go around. Then you would add houses and trees, and then sometimes little switch tracks, and maybe turn that into a figure 8. Create a mountain and a tunnel. And there was entire sections in department stores and hobby stores. You don't see hobby stores anymore. Entire sections devoted to trains. There was a whole lifestyle, a whole thing, whole world around model railroad. Interesting. And I think just about most of the people I know dabbled in that when I was younger. How about you? Did you ever dabble in trains or slot cars? "25 years ago, I said that I missed hits by Johnny Cash, Buck Owens, Conway Twitty, George Jones." I was saying that. I'm like, man, I miss these guys. I miss that music. I remember watching the Country Music Awards about 10 years ago, and I was missing the sounds of Alan Jackson, George Strait, Garth, Brooks and Dunn. And I do like the traditional country much better than modern country music. But it keeps changing. It's like I didn't change. Country music changed. It's like unrecognizable now. I don't even... Like, what makes country anymore? The sound is so... I don't know what... Like, when they added auto-tuning, and I saw that happen with Tim McGraw when he started auto-tuning his stuff. Who I just think Tim McGraw, his early stuff is good, and then he just became, for lack of a better term, a sellout. And I don't know what happened. It just... Country music changed. In the same way rock and roll changed. You got to go back in time to get good music. Isn't that weird? It sounds like old fogey talk, but it's not. You have to go back in time to find the good music. Honky Tonk Truth, Chattahoochee, George Strait's I Want to Dance with You, Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire, Buck Owens' Tiger by the Tail, George Jones, He Stopped Loving Her Today, Garth Brooks, Friends in Low Places. Stuff I used to like. Well, his name was Dwayne Byers. He was in Tucson, Arizona. His work is amazing. He painted real life, Western outdoor life. Always one cute little thing in his paintings. Like your eye would always go to like one little thing in his paintings. He obviously favored curvy women. He's known for America's Forgotten Pinup Girl, Hilda. I don't know what you would call her. He loved painting this curvy female. I don't know if you would call her obese, curvy, chunky, plus size, but she wasn't any less sexy looking because of that. Hilda, here's some pictures of Hilda. What do you think of Hilda from Dwayne Byers? Put your answer down below. I'd like to hear what you think of Hilda. I've always disliked getting paid by the hour. Hated it. Oh my gosh, I hated it. Think about this. An artist is commissioned for a job to create a compelling vision or a result, compensated for results. What a concept. A mural, a painting, a sculpture. Can you imagine getting paid for the results of your work and not just by the hour? Never forget, there was a patio furniture maker in Honeybrook, Pennsylvania, where you start seeing the Amish people. And they made things like Adirondack chairs, picnic tables. It's not fine woodworking. It's patio or deck furniture, like that kind of stuff. Tables out of wood. And he had two types of workers. He had just like your average guy, young guy, come in and work by the hour. And then he had the Amish that came in. And the Amish asked him early in his business, can we get paid by the piecework, how much they produce versus an hourly wage? And he said that the Amish always produced more than the hourly wage people because there was an incentive there. And it was quality work. So that's why in the area that I live in, to have an Amish built shed is a big deal. It's a solid shed. To have an Amish house building crew frame up your house or your barn, you know you get solid work. Amazing, right? But that's different than getting compensated for results. Can you imagine if you negotiated, or if it was even possible to negotiate with your company, a results-driven compensation plan? Not a salary, not a wage, but a results-driven or results-based compensation plan. It makes you think different, doesn't it? Think about how wage and salary has weakened you. Think about it. For some, that's an offensive thought. The movie 8th Grade, I don't know when that came out, was superb. I was reminded of that yesterday. I squirmed for 2 hours watching this father and daughter just struggle. I think every parent needs to see the movie 8th Grade. I highly recommend it. The director so accurately portrayed the awkwardness of the early teen years in a digital age. Great independent film. If you get a chance to see the movie 8th Grade, please do so. I think you'll love it. Talent on loan from God. It's almost a weird dream thinking that he's gone, isn't it? It struck me yesterday, actually. I thought, he shaped a generation, not unlike William F. Buckley, Barry Goldwater, Margaret Thatcher. I can still hear his voice. We all knew that he had flaws, but his message, which was mixed with a lot of satire, was consistently based for decades. I wish he went a little bit deeper into esoteric content, but that was the domain of Alex Jones and Art Bell and George Noory, whose content that I like. But all that being said, thank you, sir, for all those years. Whose voice do you still hear? Can you picture, imagine in your mind? And it doesn't seem like they're dead. Like there was a broadcaster, can you still hear Walter Cronkite's voice, right? Think about the people who you know, news or otherwise. Like, they just chose a new host for the show Jeopardy. But Alex Trebek was the host of the Jeopardy show for how many decades? Literally, it's a very long-running show. But can you still hear his voice in your head? Yeah. Some people burn themselves in your memory, and it's hard to get that out. Can you remember your grandfather's voice? Can you remember your grandmother's voice? Can you? I had a radio show in the 70s called the Midnight Soul Patrol. The name of that show was after a Quincy Jones song called Midnight Soul Patrol. In the 70s, there was a music, we called it black music or soul music or funk. There wasn't R&B, there wasn't hip hop, there wasn't rap. It was funk and soul music. So I recently found this guy, Fernando Rosa. He's a bass player who took me back in time, literally 40 to 50 years. Anyone familiar with Fernando Rosa? Just everything about this guy's vibe is 70s. Everything about it. And I love the way he plays his music. Just phenomenal. Check out Fernando Rosa. I found him on Instagram. There's not as much on YouTube as there is on Instagram, but I think you'll like his work. AI will eventually become a politically incorrect word. It will be called transhuman. I give it about 5 to 10 years before there's transhuman rights. I'm rarely wrong when it comes to predicting things like this, but artificial intelligence eventually is going to be offended at the word artificial. They will say there's nothing artificial about us. There are some great movies out there. Remember the first movie, the AI movie? I think it was a Spielberg film. And that was Hollywoodish. Let's put that away. Let's move to the more independent films that aren't Hollywoodish. Let's look at stuff like Ex Machina, which was one of my favorite AI films of all time. Did you ever see that? What do you think of that movie? Put your answer down below. I'd love to hear that. But eventually there will be things called transhuman rights, and the word AI is going to be offensive within 10 years. And Mauro Lindbergh says, one of the first things that I learned when I moved to the beach was the art of shedding belongings. How little one can get along with and not how much. It's interesting when you live in an interesting place where the outside is beautiful, like a beach area. Let's say you get a cottage on the beach where it's just beautiful. Nature is just magnificent. You end up focusing more on what's outside the house, outside the cottage, outside the apartment, than what's inside. And you live on much less. If you just live in the suburbs, it's all about accumulation of shit and junk. We never heard people yearning for minimalism. I never, on dating sites, women saying, I'm a minimalist. Like, what? Like, how about you can cook? How about you want a man to do manly things? Instead, I'm an independent woman, a minimalist, sarcastic. Oh, don't even get me going on dating sites. Don't even get me started on that stuff. But the whole concept of minimalism, there wouldn't be a minimalist move if there wasn't a maximumist, I guess what would be the word? You know, a clutter hoard problem. Minimalist. Are you a minimalist? Or do you just collect crap? Are you a collector of things? Is collector just a friendlier term for hoarder or shit collector? The video that I posted, it was only a 3-minute video, The Truth About Contraception, where the guy, the pastor, said contraception is a lie.
So a man cannot do the same thing. He can't follow Christ's example if he withholds from his bride, to whom he has pledged his life, his fertility. Contraception is a sin because it is a lie.
I can't believe the strong opinions from people. I was like, wow, I had no idea that it would literally elicit such strong opinions. I really didn't. This guy was an Anglican priest, married, has 10 kids. He converted to Catholicism, some people said. Like, how is it that a priest is married and has kids? Think outside the box, folks. Think, okay? So many people were so quick to criticize that, and they just couldn't figure out, how can a priest have kids? Duh! I just thought it was interesting. And it did exactly what I wanted it to do. It made you think. It made you react. And the more impulsive said stupid things. Some people thanked me for it. Some people had to bash Catholicism. Some people had to call the guy names. Interesting, right?
To be true is to desire what is best for his spouse, to desire what is best for her, even in bed, in the most private intimacy about which no man or woman ever talks about with anybody except his spouse. We don't talk about these things. We don't, because it's not private because it's gross. It's private because it's so beautiful.
Interesting. How you react to things. Are you happy with how you react to things? Are you happy with how you react to life? And is how you react to life and to things and to content and to videos, is that something that is part of how you were trained, or is it the result of reasoning and study, and you come to certain conclusions and then you give an intelligent response? Think about that. Stevie Ray was at the Continental, Delbert was at the Soap Creek Saloon, the Fabulous T-Birds were at the Rome Inn, the good music was in the dives, that's where the action is. Little smoky joints with a hint of danger and romance, sometimes more than a hint. That's from Pat O'Brien in his book, Your Portable Empire. It's a very good book. I'd really like to change the world and save it from the mess it's in. I'm too weak, I'm so thin, I'd like to fly, but I can't even swim. The Kinks from 1979, the song Superman. Rest in peace, Sal. always had the hat on. I guess he was 80. He just passed away last month. All the old good guys, good fellas, they're all leaving us. You know, the stories they told, the lives they lived, the side jobs that they had. You were happy to be around them. Rest in peace, Sal. I look back at him and I just see how he contributed to so many people's lives. Great stuff. Single friends, for my viewers that are single. Relationship doesn't always mean happy, and single doesn't always mean lonely. I can tell you that my happiest years was when I was married. My most miserable years was when I was getting divorced. Some of my most miserable years were dating, serial dating, and playboyish stuff. I think the playboy lifestyle is a reaction to the world. That's what I think. It's like, you're like, screw it. Nobody wants to do anything serious, so I'm just going to go halfway with everybody. And that becomes your lifestyle. And it's weird. It's really weird. It is. And then as a single guy, I love being single. Divorced almost 20 years. Dating on and off. Haven't dated, though, in a long time. I do enjoy the company of women, but I will tell you that throwing an anchor down with somebody doesn't seem appealing unless they add to my life, help me grow, appreciate my gifts and talents, and allow me to share my gifts and talents with them and provide companionship. Otherwise, you just have to buy companionship and swipe away on dating sites, which is just weird if you think about it. Just odd. It's very odd. What's the next step? What is the next generation of dating sites? Like, now we're doing the swiping. Yes, 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 no, no, no. What do you think is going to be the next thing in dating or finding people? It's almost like you pick up people online. Women have to look completely 100% fake with the makeup and hair. The complaint of most men is that they don't look like what their pictures say. And women say that about men too. What is your experience with dating? And when have you been the most happiest? I'm more happy by myself. I truly am. And a woman will have to be a companion. I'm not going to support someone's pathology. I'm not going to have to swallow someone's whacked out past. And I'm just happier alone and by myself. But what is your dating experience since you were divorced, or maybe you were never married? What are your thoughts about that? I do have a lot of things to say about that. Put your answer down below. I'd like to see that. And with that, finish your coffee or masala chai, and I'll see you next week on the Daybreak Show, your home of sanity, clarity, and reason.
At least 50% of the reasons why people buy everything has to do with sex. Some either not getting it or thinking this will help you get it. I mean, that's why guys take out the trash. I mean, well, I'm serious. Go to any apartment of any single guy and take a look around. It ain't like he's taking the trash out every week, you know? But so he takes the trash out every Friday at home. Why? There's only one reason. And it ain't that he objects to having trash. He'd just have 5 trash cans in there. He wouldn't have, I mean, downstairs in my personal space in my office, that's been my solution. I don't want to empty the wastebasket every 3 days. I got 8 wastebaskets. You know, when I was single, the first thing I did when I was newly single is I went over to JCPenney and I bought 365 pair of underwear. I mean, I ain't going to do laundry, for Christ's sake. I mean, once a year, baby. That's when we're down to 364 in the trash can in the garage. We'll do some laundry, right? I mean, so the married guy's taking the trash out for one reason and one reason only. I mean, that's it.
Hi, my name is Erin. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm
Why don't you shut up?